Good morning, it is Phoenix Amore. So I wanted to do a video about my relationship with finances. Reason being, I'm going to break some stuff down in this video that people need to think about. If you notice there being a few articles that I put up where you have some of these people in politics who were like, I'm not filing taxes anymore, until you understood why, you would kind of look at it as being kind of weird. Like, why would I file mine if a politician didn't file theirs? Let's break it down. Do you know what a slush fund even was? Now, I want people to start looking up some of the articles on these things so you truly understand the level of griminess that was going on. Slush funds was basically taken, okay, it's basically like saying, okay, these people, a bank or whoever, they're guilty of this, rather than we charge them criminally. Read what it's telling you. Well, then you just have to pay these fines. But then they circumvent the fines into putting them into groups that they liked, that basically supported their ideology. So also you as a taxpayer paying into the government, you see a system that basically was circumventing the way that some laws were supposed to be passed about how that money's supposed to be spent. So step back a minute. That is basically like giving Obama money and saying, do what you want to do with my money. No, that's not how it's supposed to be in a democratic republic. That's the thing you have to understand about why people had gotten in such an uproar about how he was moving. Some of it, we get it initially because he was a black president. Some people were pushing back just because. But some of it, if you look at it black and white, numbers, you go, oh no, I can see why they started pushing back on him on some things. So he got caught up in that whole, oh, they're just doing me like this because I'm black. Now when some of this stuff comes out, right, spying on everybody else, citizens, political enemies, that has nothing to do with being black. That's purely power tripping. That's purely breaking the the Fourth Amendment. Think about what I'm saying, constitutional rights of citizens. That's nothing to do with color. That also means he probably did the same to some black folks that didn't agree with him, which takes you to the whole IRS thing, right? When I get the letter and I'm stupid as to where that came from. So all this stuff, I'm understanding the dynamics and got prepared for. Still schooling you guys on how the little political games start. Even with the journalists, that is where you bully the media to where they're scared to write about certain things. So understand how the media got broken. You now have some people telling you how it got broken. If you have somebody in a seat of power like president who is targeting political enemies and journalists, okay, they're going to start writing like, we scared to write the truth, so we're going to spin it for this person when he's really simply a bully or was a bully. So what's happened now with all the truth of the matter coming out, right, you have to understand why Tea Party got targeted, IRS. So some of them, I'm not filing taxes. So then you have the IRS trying to act like the big bad wolf, right? Even though there was corruption on their end. All these corrupt people basically trying to bully each other when the citizens are caught in between everything that was going on. So for me, for a couple of years, to shut down financially, what I mean with that is to say, I'm not about to kill myself pushing for, to be quote unquote so ambitious to where now when they're spying on you that kind of way, they're going to try to find any way to take your money. If you read the article, or even one of the politicians, like my dad had died, the next day IRS was at his door knowing his dad had died. So when you have a government entity like that watching you like, oh good, his dad died, let's go get that money, he probably has this money, that money, that is very grimy. So that's even a politician, like, if the government turns that cold-blooded yet pushes his whole facade like, oh, we're for the people, that's the kind of stuff the people need to know about. So now all of a sudden you have Republicans being shot at, right? Which is another thing people were warning these fools about for the longest. If you keep pushing that anti-president, Trump or not, it's anti-president, right? That's what you have now. If you recall, the reason when I was saying that veil broke and I was like, this is going to get real dangerous, and I was going in on Obama, it is because of the war aspect of it, the dead bodies in Syria and all that kind of stuff. So it's not oh, I hate Obama. That's me spiritual playing, saying you're not telling the truth about everything and then want people to spin it. And that's where it became a big issue. So understanding part of what happened with me here financially is knowing how all that government stuff works. So they targeted me with IRS. We know that. Whatever. You pay that down, you keep it moving. But because I work for quote unquote God, I have to keep putting my message out there and know at some point people finally got to hear what I was saying and understood, okay, this is not some rebel quote unquote that's saying this. This is really somebody getting spiritual messages like it's going the wrong way and it's about to hit the fan, which is exactly what's happened. Now, breaking it down on a personal level, when I talk about my relationship with finances, scavengers, because I'm such a strong person, okay, and because I've always been very business oriented, a go-getter, however you want to say it, I have had a tendency to attract leeches. So finally, when God was like, be still for a couple of years, that's what I did. And no, you can paint it as irresponsible as all you want. It did not even matter to me because the people who truly know me knew, okay, we get why she's doing that. If you notice, the trend has been when it is such that I get to a certain point, you're going to have that second X, like a little shark in the water. Although we know what that agreement was originally. When I talk about universal law versus man's law, that's on some level me meditating, praying about it and saying, listen, I'm kind of tired of him pulling a little shady stuff and thinking I'm going to, bend over and just, let it happen. And so I stopped doing that. And so the thing is, I could not care how they tried to paint me or what was said. I couldn't care. All I knew is when I was talking with God personally, all right, there comes a point where a person can only push you so far before you start pushing back. That's what I started doing. Now, it's starting to improve a little bit. I'm sure he's been following the blog where he's seeing, dang, there's been some crazy stuff going on with her. Yes, but I will tell you the other thing about him. He is very much so into church. At first, he was a babe in the word. And then I feel like he's probably grown some even reading my blog. He didn't even know what level I was on as far as spirituality and religious stuff. So now there's some stuff I'm sure he's like, yes, it's always been like that. So now as I'm getting back, moving with the whole business thing and all this stuff, people have to understand I'm not the same person. You're not going to just punk me. That's the term that people use a lot. You're not going to just punk me financially and follow me and try to figure out what income I have because you feel like you're entitled to it. That's not going to happen again. Things are going to be more fair. And so one of the things that I need to point out to people on why I explained when I waived the $25,000, $30,000 in child support for ex's father, those are the things that I've always done where I'm like, okay, it comes back to where when I talk about people owing spiritually or having good karma, I've had some good karma. So it's not about avoiding responsibility. It's about being able to say, for a couple of years, I'm going to coast because I was tired and being okay with saying, I was tired. I don't feel like carrying you mofos all the time. That's the place that I got to. So understanding when you're reading this stuff, and I'm like, no. When my father passed away, right before he passed away, now that people understand how deep it is, it was one of those things where like, you know what? She hasn't really asked for a whole lot. That's not a session of me crying about it. That was like a reality of she really didn't. This is one that's been standing her own 2 feet. Matter of fact, carrying households. Matter of fact, the one that waived $25,000, $30,000 in child support. This is that same person. I think it should be okay for 2 years for her to just kind of float and rest her spirit in some capacity. Not completely, as you see, because of this whole veil breaking thing. So understanding when you're reading my blog and when I meet people and I'm chit-chatting with them, they look at it backwards because they'll see like, oh, her mom is giving her this car and doing this and that. That's because my mother, even though we got into our blowouts, knows that is the truth. Looking at family dynamics, that's what happens. There's one thing that a male cousin of mine said, and it was very, very true, even though he's gotten plenty of help from the family, but it doesn't take away from what he said being true. You had, even back in the day, Native Americans would set up when people were newlyweds. They would set them up with the house and all this stuff. So giving them a foundation to start on. Same thing with a lot of white people. They give their kids some sort of foundation to start on, right? And so you have to look at the dynamics and what's happened in some of the African American culture because of slavery mentality. We have that, you need to start from nothing. To a degree, that's a good thing. To a degree, it's not. Because if you have somebody always feeling like they're starting from nothing and they get knocked over again and again, they're going to turn to ulterior means to get what they need. That's basically what happened to the black community for the longest. But now, when you talk about why I used to read for drug dealers a lot of the times, understand it was usually ones getting out of that and saying, I want to start a legit business. What kind of business should I start? However you want to say it. So it wasn't reading about their deals per se, like, oh yeah, go do this and do that. No, it was usually, okay, what kind of business? I have this money. I want to get out of this crazy stuff and start a business. So understand, that's always been the type of people that I read for, and professionals. So being able to relate to different kind of people, hearing different people's financial situations and how they got to where they were and all this kind of stuff. This is why I'm able to understand my own motives about money and however you want to say it. But some of these same people in the same breath taught me, girl, if I were you, I would not let that second ex run me over anymore financially, because that's wrong. He knows what he's doing. He knew what he did. And so some of them, these same people, this is when you meet people who were meant to kind of mold or kind of change your thought process. A lot of them are like, this is what you need to do. This is how I would do that. And I paid attention. Why? Being raised Christian, you know, the whole turn the other cheek thing. I told you before, that can be very dangerous. That can even fall into the financial category when you let people take advantage. That used to be me. So now I've switched over into that. I'm going to be responsible, but you're not going to take advantage. So with all that being said, I need people to understand the whole thing where everybody's plagiarizing and taking and all this kind of stuff. When the veil finally broke, when I talk about owing, I'm not speaking just financially. I'm speaking spiritually, karmically. So you could have all the money in the world. If you got it crooked and you still getting it crooked, death comes into play. So this whole thing with all this stuff where you put Obama on this pedestal because you say Obamacare, this and that, you couldn't see this whole thing even with the drug thing, okay? Ending the video to break it down. When you can't even see the snowball effect of everything being created by some of the financial decisions that the government even made, you can only see it, 2 days ago, and they're like, no, the drug overdoses. Guess what? Guess what group it hit the highest? Black folks. So you may want to think twice when you talk about a Messiah and all this kind of stuff, what actually got created. So all these dynamics that I just addressed in this one video when I talk about finances and all that kind of thing, what did people do with the financial help they got with some of that insurance? They're going to break the numbers down now that I put the video out. How many of those people got those drugs using Obamacare? That's what y'all need to assess. You guys take care.